Hey there, welcome to ABC News Live. I'm Ariel Reshef at ABC News headquarters in New York. Let's get straight to the heart of those stories making headlines and topping your news on this Tuesday. First, the president meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Helsinki. The fallout continues this morning. We're going to have analysis from D.C. and around the globe. And a lava bomb exploding in Hawaii, injuring nearly 24 people. ABC's Will Carr is on the ground. But first, to today's headlines.
The FBI is now accusing a gun rights activist, Maria Butina, of working as a Russian foreign agent. A federal judge is now putting a temporary hold on the deportation of families reunified after being separated at the border. The San Diego judge siding with the ACLU amid worries that deportations may happen too quickly and the families won't have enough time to pursue asylum requests.
New mandatory evacuation orders in Mariposa County, California, due to a nearly 10,000-acre wildfire outside of Yosemite National Park.
Police now say they've captured a man wanted for 3 recent murders around Houston. Investigators say Jose Rodriguez was spotted in a car belonging to one of the victims. The police department in Clayton, Missouri is apologizing after several of its officers accused 10 African-American teens of skipping out on a bill at a restaurant, even though some had receipts. They were forced to walk back to the restaurant, tailed by police officers.
Was this racial profiling?
I don't know how you can take that into account.
Prime Day officially began at 3 p.m. Eastern on Monday, and within 7 minutes, users started seeing the words "sorry" and below that, pictures of dogs. It says in the first hour, U.S. customers ordered more items this year compared to the first hour of last year's Prime Day. The company says there's plenty of time left as they've extended Prime Day to 36 hours in total.
And we're joined now by Mary Alice Parks live at the White House. And Mary Alice is going to talk about that summit between President Trump and President Vladimir Putin, the fallout continuing today. The president doesn't have any events scheduled today, but certainly a lot of reaction there in the Beltway.
Right. The president looking to avoid the public eye today, or at least that's the plan. He doesn't have any public events, like you said, but it is unlikely that he can avoid the cameras and the criticism for long. Concern here in Washington and really around the globe has just been mounting. But in face of all of that pushback, all of that criticism, the president so far just doubling down. This morning he tweeted, "While I had a great meeting with NATO, I had an even better meeting with Vladimir Putin of Russia. Sadly, it's not being reported that way." He went on to, of course, blame what he calls the fake news and fake media. But we're really just seeing more finger pointing here and blame. The president defending himself, defending his defense of Putin, really missing what has been the crux of the concern, that he seemed too close to President Putin. I don't see these sorts of tweets really tamping down that concern. They would arguably probably fan them. Other tweets this morning from President Trump. He thanked Rand Paul, a member of the Republican Party there on Capitol Hill, one of the only Republicans that did defend the president overnight. The president tweeted his thanks, but so far, no response really to the core of the criticism.
And a lot of the core of the criticism has come from the president delegitimizing the intelligence findings from our U.S. intelligence agencies and doing it on a global stage about Russian election meddling. There's been bipartisan pushback to this. It has spanned the political spectrum this morning. So it's not just Democrats who are complaining about the president's performance.
No, bizarre, flat out wrong, a sign of weakness. Those were some of the terms that Republicans used to describe the performance yesterday. There was one moment that really stuck out where you're right. President Trump seemed to side with Putin, seemed to accept his denial over the conclusions from U.S. intelligence officials. Let's listen back to what he said yesterday.
Just now, President Putin denied having anything to do with the election interference in 2016. Every U.S. intelligence agency has concluded that Russia did. My first question for you, sir, is who do you believe? My second question is, would you now, with the whole world watching, tell President Putin, would you denounce what happened in 2016, and would you warn him to never do it again?
So let me just say that we have two thoughts. You have groups that are wondering why the FBI never took the server. Why haven't they taken the server? Why was the FBI told to leave the office of the Democratic National Committee? People came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be, but I really do want to see the server. But I have confidence in both parties. So I have great confidence in my intelligence people, but I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today.
It was this moment where the president seemed to undercut members of his own cabinet, members of the U.S. intelligence community that had so many Republicans rushing to their defense. Speaker of the House Paul Ryan yesterday delivered a statement where he said it wasn't just the FBI and the CIA that came to the conclusions about Russia, but that Republican members of Congress in their own investigations came to the same conclusions. Speaker Ryan delivered a strong rebuke today during a press conference, again defending U.S. intelligence. We can listen to that.
We just conducted a year-long investigation into Russia's interference in our elections. They did interfere in our elections. It's really clear. There should be no doubt about that. But Russia is a menacing government that does not share our interests and it does not share our values. And I think that should be made very, very clear.
Now, Democrats on Capitol Hill, of course, are saying, so what's next? They are calling on Republicans to do something and not just issue statements. They've suggested things like censuring the president, subpoenaing advisors here from the White House, compelling them to come and testify on Capitol Hill about what happened. So far, we haven't seen suggestions of that from Republicans. Arizona Republican Senator Jeff Flake suggested maybe they pass a resolution confirming their support of U.S. intelligence. Speaker Paul Ryan said that he was open to perhaps more sanctions against Russia, but they will continue to face these sorts of questions. What are you going to do about your concern with the president's statements?
Before I let you go, I have to ask you, did this take some in the administration by surprise, even the State Department? We heard from some of our internal reporting that people in the State Department said they feel like going back now is back to Washington is like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic or polishing the silverware. Those were some of the quotes. Does it seem to you from your analysis that people in Washington, in the administration, were taken by surprise by the president's stance?
Absolutely. This seemed historic and unprecedented, even for a White House where we use those words so often. We had reporters that cover the State Department and the Justice Department tell stories of their sources just being in shock, picking their jaws up from off the floor. I think no one expected the president to undercut U.S. intelligence in this way and to look as if he was taking a step back, a second seat to the Russian president. That is just something that we never would expect from a U.S. president on a global stage.
There in Washington for a long time, following several administrations. How unprecedented is it to see a sitting U.S. president on the global stage undercutting his own U.S. intelligence findings?
You know, it was interesting to look at how this played at states across the country. In Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, some of these key Trump states, these were some of the headlines. Trump accepts Putin's denial. America first becomes me first. Trump questions U.S. intel, not Putin. You know, I was talking to radio stations across the country and I was getting questions from anchors like, how does he defend this? What does he do next? How can the president clean this up? I think the White House is going to be in real emergency session, you can say sort of cleanup mode for the next days and maybe weeks to come, trying to figure out how to make sense of this.
Mary Alice, it'll be interesting to see if the president wants to clean this up. Thank you so much for your analysis from Washington. And now we turn overseas to Helsinki, where Patrick Ravel has been monitoring developments from that summit. And Patrick, we know you have been in Russia. You are now in Helsinki. Tell us what the latest sentiment is there in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, we're here in Helsinki where people have been packing up and slowly getting back to normal after that huge international media caravan came into this small city. But I mean, in Europe, really, there is a pretty clear sentiment about yesterday's summit, and that is mostly that Vladimir Putin came out on top against President Trump. And you see, this was the headline on one of Helsinki's main business papers today, that is Trump 0, Putin 1. And we're seeing that across the European press today, just very heavy criticism of President Trump, and also accusing him actually of being weak in front of Vladimir Putin, because they're saying that he has basically, by embracing Vladimir Putin's point of view and refusing to bring up some of the many disagreements that Europe has with Russia, that in that President Trump was being weak. And so that is the sort of prevailing sentiment across Europe, really, if you look at the papers today. At the same time, back in Russia, interestingly, the sentiment there is actually, especially if you compare it to the US, where there's this kind of, outrage and to a degree horror among many lawmakers. If you go to Russia, the strength of the sentiment is not the same at all. There actually, there's a kind of oddly, not flat certainly, but there's not the euphoria that you would expect. They're kind of saying it was a very positive summit, but now there's so much upset in the US, we actually have doubts that there's going to be much continuation from it.
And Patrick, I asked Mary Alice if the administration itself was surprised by these developments. Was the Russian public, to your knowledge, surprised by how acquiescent it seemed President Trump was to President Putin?
That's kind of what's remarkable so far, at least looking at it from Helsinki, admittedly. But when you look at the Russian reaction, they're not focusing on the idea that President Trump somehow took Putin's side or defended Putin, and they actually almost in some ways appear to be oblivious to quite how shocking that was to many people in the US, which is interesting. I think speaks to just how much of a divide there is between the way people in the US are seeing the world and the way people in Russia are seeing it. In Russia, there's almost like, at last, the Americans are starting to see sense, which is how it's being portrayed in state media.
And Patrick Ravel there in Helsinki, a picturesque view of where you're standing, but certainly a political storm igniting from that summit. Thank you so much for sharing your analysis from the ground there in Helsinki, Patrick. And now we turn to Hawaii, where a lava bomb exploded, injuring nearly 24 people. ABC's Will Carr is on the ground with the very latest.
Good morning, Ariel. The boat behind me is called the Hotspot. This is the type of boat that tourists here in Hilo, Hawaii get on to come see something new, something they've never seen before. But boy, did they get something completely unexpected on Monday. Now, when you come around here, you can see on the side of the boat, they actually advertise lava ocean tours. But on Monday, a lava bomb exploded close to this boat and then you can see a massive lava rock the size of a basketball shot down through the roof of this boat. 23 people were injured. One woman fractured her femur. Now, this is the result of the Kilauea volcano that started burning back in May. Since then, it's burned businesses, schools, and more than 700 homes. Most recently, it actually burned so much it created a new tiny island off of the big island just outside of Hilo here, which has since turned into a peninsula. Now, as a result of this incident, the Coast Guard is actually investigating to see if this boat went inside of a safety zone where boats are not supposed to go to keep both passengers and boats just like this safe. And it comes as people who are on this boat who are recovering say that they're thankful to be alive. Ariel.
Will Carr there in Hawaii. Unbelievable images coming out of the Big Island. And a big milestone in Thailand expected in the next 24 hours. Those 12 young boys and their coach who were extricated from a cave there expected to speak publicly for the very first time. ABC's Adrian Bankert has been in Chiang Rai for a long time now. And Adrian, this is really welcome news, an exciting day expected tomorrow. It's great to see you, by the way.
Oh, it's good to hear your voice too, Ariel. You are so funny. A long time. I have been here, let me see, at least almost as long as those young boys were in that cave, really. I mean, it's coming on 2 weeks and beyond that I've been in Asia. But behind us here, this street is becoming famous because people all over the world have seen the front of this hospital where those young boys are right now. They're on the 8th floor. We've talked about that special suite where they have received specialized treatment from doctors to fight any infections they might have contracted while inside that cave. But as you mentioned, tomorrow is the day when we will hear from those young boys and their coach for the very first time. We are about to hear from their mouths what it was like inside that cave and what they're going to do next. No doubt they're going to be talking about what they want to eat when they get out or what their first major meal was when they were able to get back on normal food. But We know that the doctors have cleared them from any infection. They had their test results come back from Bangkok. And we also know that really the biggest concern is psychological. They want to make sure that there are no psychological, mental, emotional repercussions from being inside that cave that these children have to deal with. Because medical officials have said, we know their life is not going to be quite normal after they get out of the hospital, with all of the attention they've received, with everybody wanting to know what it's like for them and what it was like for them inside that cave, and their perspective on the many brave divers who went inside there and were able to rescue them. So tomorrow is a huge day. We've been covering this story now for weeks. I have to give many, many kudos to our colleagues, Matt Gutman and James Longman, who really braved the mud up there about an hour away in Mae Sai, where these children are from. I mean, they're not even from this particular neighborhood, but what will happen after they are released, because we've been reporting this too, tentatively scheduled for Thursday, according to health officials, but everything's been tentative, everything's been possible. But once they are released, they will go home and receive medical treatment and monitoring from their local hospitals, again in Mae Sai, which is about an hour away from here. But again, tomorrow is a huge day, and we are excited to bring it to you. We will have that for you live here from Chiang Rai.
Yeah,
Ariel?
Adrian, I have to say, I have chills, I have goosebumps just thinking about those children emerging from this harrowing situation. A lot of smiles there in Thailand. We know the morale has been boosted significantly there. But we also know that in that press conference tomorrow, I believe I read that the questions may even be vetted so that those children aren't subjected to questions they're not prepared for. Is that correct?
Yes. I mean, I think that all the community here is concerned most for those children's well-being. I mean, the coach is 25 years old. The children range in age from 11 years old to 16. And before this cave ordeal, we'll just call it, I mean, they were living very normal lives, very ordinary lives. I mean, they played soccer, they went to school. We've seen the reports from Matt and James about their families and about their classmates and what they like to do. And the cool thing is we've been seeing a lot of video and images from inside this hospital. In fact, this weekend was big because we saw the doctor who had visited them inside the cave and tended to them inside the cave, coming back and having a reunion with them here and giving each of them a big hug and posting those photos on Facebook and talking about how he was surprised at how well they were doing. They were doing much better than he expected, but talked about their honesty and their optimism and their bravery. We've seen them signing pictures of the fallen former Thai Navy SEAL who passed away sadly during the rescue efforts, and signing mementos or messages on a poster with his portrait, some wiping away tears. We've also seen them actually greeting the world on video at one of the news conferences that myself and our crew attended. Officials were actually able to play that video for us and show these smiling children who were in their hospital beds waving to the camera, talking about how healthy they are, saying, "Don't worry anymore, we're fine, and I want some basil fried rice and some KFC and some steak when I'm out, Mama." So you're getting to know these children, but tomorrow is a big day because we're going to hear straight from them, and we all look forward to hearing what they have to say.
Absolutely, we do. Adrian Banker there in Thailand, thank you so much. And of course, we have to commend the international effort it took to get those kids and their coach out of the cave safely. We now turn to the U.S. It is hot out. It's feeling like summer, and ABC's chief meteorologist Ginger Z is talking about the fires raging and what you can expect in your neck of the woods.
Ariel, thank you. I want to take you straight into the Ferguson fire that more than doubled in size in just 24 hours. Now more than 9,000 acres burning. The flames there in Mariposa County. So this is Northern California. Not the only issue. It's the air quality. And anyone who's sensitive to this, you can see in the time lapse, going to have to be careful because that smoke filling in Yosemite very quickly, and it stuck around most of Monday too, so it's not moving much, and there's a reason behind that. But first I want to show you this awesome image. It's so wild to see this, that water spout along the Colorado River, a brush fire burning right there. This is easy to form because you can have the difference in temperature very quickly between that water and the air around the brush fire, and that fuels the rotation like that. Now, heat and fire sticking in the west. You can see the red flag warnings, the excessive heat warnings that stretch into Nevada, even Northern California. Medford should go to 101, 109 Redding. We've got a couple more days like this, so awful for anybody fighting the fires and certainly won't help suppress them. Then you see the tropical moisture fueling along that cold front, and that's the severe potential today. Already severe storms have been blowing through the northeast along the I-95 corridor. As this moves in for the afternoon drive, you see damaging wind and also flash flooding anywhere from 4 to 6 p.m. That'd be the little window that you want to watch for most folks. It could bring up to 3+ inches of rain, too. Ariel?
All right, Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z with the very latest on your forecast. And before we go, last but certainly not least, it is International Emoji Day, and we're greeting you with a smile, maybe a wink, and we also have Will Gans joining us now live from Times Square. Will, you're a smiling emoji yourself this morning. I hear Apple is actually rolling out some new ones today.
Apple is rolling out some new emojis today. Everybody is celebrating World Emoji Day, especially Apple. 70+ new emojis coming at you a little later this year. But before we get to that, I figured we could go over some of our own personally most used emojis, Ariel. Mine will probably not surprise you at all. I'm going to see if I can show you here on my screen.
This is multi-talented.
My most used, we've got the hearts.
Yep.
The fire, the snake for Taylor Swift, obviously, and the dancing man emoji. Those are my most used. What are yours, Ariel?
I'm going into mine right now. Okay, so first of all, I have this one, which Will can't see, but it's the rolling of the eyes. For some reason, I use that one a lot. And then, obviously, a shocked face. I use that one, too. And I told you this morning at Times Square before GMA, or after GMA, I should say, that I use the crazy face a lot because that's kind of what I feel like a lot of times, being a mom, being a reporter, being, all things to everyone at all times. You know how that goes.
Yeah, but I've also seen your own personal interpretation of the crazy face emoji, so if you're not doing it right now on camera, I'm going to be so disappointed because it's very good.
Well, I pride myself on that. I really practice it hard. Okay, so you have been talking to the folks out in Times Square about their favorite emojis and how they feel about this grand holiday.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a grand holiday. You've got Christmas, you've got Hanukkah, and then the most important of all, World Emoji Day. I want to bring in my friends over here. This is Fiona, who is actually here from Scotland. Welcome to a very hot, very balmy Times Square. But it's not just National Emoji Day, it's World Emoji Day, which is fitting that you're from Scotland. Yes. Can we take a look? Do you have your phone on you?
I do have my phone.
She's taking pictures. Fiona's going to grab her phone so she can let us know what her most used emoji is. So far, with the people we've been talking to, a lot of the laughing emoji with like the tears coming out of the eyes. What's your most used, Fiona?
My most used is the smiley face followed by the laughing face.
Smiley face and the laughing face. Doesn't surprise me. You're so pleasant.
Oh, thank you.
Can I ask you, while we're here, you're going to play Vanna White for me for just a second.
She's like,
so
who is
in
Vanna
honor
White?
of World Emoji Day. There is no Vanna White emoji yet. There are 70+ coming, and we're going to take a look at them, but no Vanna White emoji just yet. So Apple is unveiling a lot of new emojis this year in honor of World Emoji Day. So we're going to go through some of our options here this morning. We've got curly hair coming to, which it doesn't look like you'll be needing too much.
Oh, but that's really good. I'm glad that they're thinking about other hairstyles.
They are. So after that, we've got, what do we have next?
Oh, there we go. Blonde curly hair. That's a popular one. That's a good one.
It is. I kind of can't believe it took them this long to get there.
Yeah.
What else do we have here? Ooh. White hair for the first time.
That is good. That's in style just now, so that's quite a good idea, like pastel colors and things. So
it is, but it also is good for grandparents. Do you have grandparents who text?
I do have grandparents who text, yeah, so that is handy for them.
How do they do? Because my grandma has no clue what's going on when it comes to texting, and especially now with emojis.
Yeah, not too well with the emojis, but maybe this will encourage older people to use emojis.
Exactly. Hopeful. There's hope for grandma and grandpa who are texting. What else do we have? Bald emojis, men and women.
That's a good one.
And then there's one I want to get to specifically for you. Go to the next one because you're from Scotland.
Oh, ginger! Yes! Scottish people will love this. Yes, ginger hair. Scottish people will love this. Amazing. But Scottish people's skin tone would need to be a lot lighter than that because Scottish people are known to be very pale.
So as soon as we get the paler emojis, maybe the folks back home in Scotland will hop on board.
Absolutely, definitely, of course.
Fiona, thank you so much for hanging out with us here in Times Square. You can hang on to these for now. I'll come find you in a little bit. I want to point out to you, though, Ariel, back in the studio, we're not the only ones that's celebrating World Emoji Day today. The Army also getting in on the action. They tweeted a picture this morning celebrating World Emoji Day, which I hope you can see there. You know, they photoshopped their emojis into their guys there on the ground. So it's not just us here in Times Square. It's not just me and Fiona. We're all celebrating, and I hope you guys are too at home.
Hey, thanks, Will Gans, there in Times Square, giving us a big smile emoji today. And we're giving you the hands up emoji for joining us on ABC News Live. You can get the very latest on abcnews.com. Download the ABC News app, and of course, watch ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir. Have a great Tuesday.